What an incredible episode we had with the one and only Rabbi Judah Mischel. Rabbi Judah is the executive director of the world-renowned Camp HASC, as well as the founder of the organization Tzama Nafshi. And my personal connection to Rabbi Judah is through his famous book, Baderech. This book I've learned with hundreds of people for the past 3 years since getting to Israel. It's personally changed my life, hundreds of people that have connected towards this book. And this was an amazing opportunity for us to sit down, really open up Rabbi Judah Mischel's viewpoint, both on the world, on the Jewish people, and himself. It was a personal, authentic conversation. I can't wait to share with you guys.
This is Mo.
And this is Aryeh.
And you're listening to
The Relatable Podcast. Let's do it. Okay, Rabbi Judah, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Awesome.
You came here. What do you mean?
Well,
I didn't
thank
come
you
to
for having. It's true, I guess.
Happy you guys are here.
But I'm very, very excited.
A little behind the scenes, by the way. When we first arrived, Rabbi Judah sat us down with his barista skills, coffee, pizza, all the work. So not only is he a learned scholar to man, but also has got many talents. And I just want to say, this has been a long time coming. For over 3 years, I don't know if the camera could pick this up. I'm learning Rabbi Judah's Holy Sefer Baderech.
Show the wear and tear.
Yeah,
the
quite
wear and tear.
beaten up.
Let's bring it up over here.
Yeah, you could get right in there. Oh, nice.
The
nice.
wear and tear, Chavra.
Yes, so that was over 3 years, learned it with countless and dozens of people. And it's been with me throughout my journeys, ups, downs, high, lows, everything in between. So I just want to publicly thank you for really, I feel like you're mamish every step in the journey with me. So it really means a lot being able to sit with you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Thank you for taking me along.
Of course. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's time for another copy or two, I think.
Okay, well, what do we got over there, by the way? What's...
Oh, no, I'm saying you should buy another copy or two.
Oh, no, this is priceless.
It's a segula to have in every room of your home.
Really? Nice. It's good for
That's
sales,
awesome.
eh?
It's a segula, exactly. It's a segula for what? Here we go. Are we starting off with this?
Yeah, what do you
Here
got
we
over
go. The Haggadah Baderech. Da-da-da-da.
First of all, the cover is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
I remember I showed you that cover. Or where?
Yes.
I showed you that cover on whose status was that? I saw it on someone's status. I was like, oh, you have to look at this. This is gorgeous.
No, it's really...
It's unbelievable.
Thank God.
It's a
beautiful.
work of art.
A little from darkness comes light, along the path of redemption. That's where we are.
I like
That's
it.
where Am Yisrael is.
So can we dive? Let's dive right into it. Give me the premise of. Obviously, I've been doing this in depth, and I'm curious how you balance doing the Haggadah based off Pesach, Passover, versus what's the main premise of the book of Baderech? What are you doing, and what's your mission right now?
The truth is, I didn't intend to write something on Pesach. It's kind of like the gangster life.
It just happened.
Gangster life chooses you sometimes. It's not
Nice.
necessarily
Nice.
that I sought out to write a Haggadah. I have a friend who's a little bit more experienced in this the space of Harbatzas HaTorah and the written word. Rabbi Surli Besser, who was encouraging to do a Haggadah. He said everybody buys a new Haggadah, but I didn't feel like such a Pesach,
Right.
a Pesach Jew, And then I was actually working on something totally different, and then the war broke out after October 7th, after Simchas Torah here in Eretz Yisrael, and there was such an upheaval in the world. There was such I'll call it chaos. There was such an unraveling, a shaking of the foundations of the world, and of our personal lives, and of what was happening in Am Yisrael, and I was thinking a lot about Geula and a lot about the process of Geula and the yearning for Geula, for redemption. And the Haggadah actually became a very stabilizing, tethering force to kind of, double click on and delve into. It just kind of the Jewish people there's a template, right? There's a template in our history. There's a template in our identity, darkness to light. We have such a notion of exile to freedom, how that expresses itself personally, how that expresses itself nationally. So the Haggadah kind of chose me, so to speak.
Wow.
And it was a real anchor to work on it during these months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So take me through that. I was discussing with Mo earlier on the bus how the more elementary level understanding of exile is that we were in the Beis HaMikdash on the Holy Land, and then we got exiled from that. The deeper understanding, it sounds like there's a much more personal feelings tied into that there is a individual level of exile as well. What does that look like?
Well, the story of the Jewish people begins with Avram Avinu and Sarah, right? And Hashem tells Avram Avinu, here's what's going to happen, right? There's a covenant called Brit Ben Abtarim, the Bris Ben Absarim. It's covenant of the parts. It was ugly. It was wild. Fire, vultures, blood. It was wild.
Really?
and Parshas Lech Lecha. Hashem says it's going to be a whole thing where you're going to go to a foreign place, va'avadum ve'inu amatam. You're going to suffer, and you're going to be servants there, 400 years. It's going to be a real to-do. The whole story of Sefer Bereshis, the descent into Mitzrayim, Yosef and his brothers, the Shiftei Ka, how we kind of end up there logistically. And then that kind of becomes the Binyan Av. I said it in the template, so to speak, for how, let's call it the algorithm, the back end of our national story. And if it's true on a national level, then it's also true that it's taking place internally. Karva al nafshi ge'ala, right? Like our soul, our nefesh yearns to be redeemed, yearns to be free. And it's between those two spots, the national and the personal, that every Jew found themselves this year. Are you with us? Atem Yisrael, like they asked in Be'eri. Are you with us? Or are you separating yourself from the klal? Are you not part of Jewish history? Are you coming out with us from Mitzrayim, from your constricted conceptia of how you see yourself? Or are you going to be stuck and just kind of stay back in the trash heap of history?
What does that look like?
You tell
What's
me.
that mindset? What's that perspective?
But you tell me. You've been here, right? You're learning in Rabbi Fisher's yeshiva. You've been here the whole year. You've been here 2 years, right?
3 years.
3 years.
Son of Gimel, baby.
Chazaka.
Yeah.
They say in Eretz Yisrael, Pam Shlishit, Glida. That the third time is a chazaka, you have ice cream.
Wow, nice.
Ice cream, Glida. And it's your first year here, right?
Yeah.
So you came El Zman after almost 11 months of fighting, of Agmas Nefesh. Well, you tell me, what does it look like to be a part of what's happening over here? What does it look like to have your destiny and your soul and your story and our story bound to the bigger story of the Jewish people? What does that look like? How does that express itself? Tell me.
So I think we're gonna have very different answers. Meaning,
Right,
That's
probably 'cause
fine.
it's individual.
yeah,
Assuming.
That's
exactly. Like I would tell you that there is an aspect of me that's super well connected to just being in Eretz Yisrael and the energy. There's something you feel. You kind of feel like you're a little bit in the history of it, Like just when we were sitting down with Reb Shlomo Katz, he's like, yeah, under this shul, like before I dug out these floors, the David Melech could have been like sitting here ready to tell him or whatever,
No, yeah. But that was true 2 years ago too, as well.
You're saying what's shifted?
That was true. That was true. That's always been true.
No, so
that everywhere you go here, you're living your past, present, and future. You're kum hitalech ba'aretz la'arka l'rachba ki lecha tenena u'lazaracha ad olam. Get up, Hashem tells Avram, and walk the land. Trip over a stone, by its Rishon, by its Sheni. I don't know, the boring stuff on the Tiulim, the Byzantine era, I don't know, whatever it is. Wow. There's pottery shards here, pottery there. It's not just to know that this is a very old place. Rome is also old. Oh, so we're older. It's not that. Ki lecha tenena u'lazaracha ad olam, forever, for eternity. So now we're holding at least I feel, I think that the majority of Jews in the world feel that like something shifted, right? The needle moved on Jewish history and Jewish participation. There's almost like this moment of, are you with us? How does that express itself? How do you
think that's dangerous?
Dangerous with what?
It sounds like all or nothing. It's like, are you with us or you're not? Like you're in or out.
You tell me.
I'm asking.
I think that that we're here. The days that we're all waiting for are happening. Right? Meaning, everyone say, well, when Mashiach comes, I think Mashiach is here. We are in like unfolding stages of Geula. We are along a path of redemption. It's not like, one day I'll cash out of Florida. I'll cash out of, you said Muncie. You're from
Pomona.
Pomona.
Yeah.
Pomona.
Well, come to me, my place.
It's a Pomona thing. And like whatever, when the time comes, whatever will come. I believe that it's happening. What we've seen is an awakening of the soul of the Jewish people in a different way. And it's not pretty all the time. It's been pretty messy and it's pretty confusing. There's a lot of gray and
what are some of the misconceptions?
Well, we're in a big construction site. You ever see some building going on? Yeah. In real estate, people are buying pinoi binoi. You're buying and flipping and renovating, and it's a mess in the midst of it.
It's not pretty in the beginning.
No, it's a mess. It's a mess. You're gutting the apartment and you're making tikkunim, fixing things, and it's a disaster zone. And you got to wear a helmet because it's dangerous and it's expensive. And sometimes the kabbalan, the builder messes you over and charges you more, and it takes longer than you thought it would take. That's the building process of the nation of Israel that we're currently in. And there are people getting exhausted by it and frustrated by it, and also trying to figure out their place in it. So it's really for every person to ask themselves, what's different in my life now after this series of events? You can't, meaning, Gemara says you put your hand in your pocket to pull out a nickel and you pull out a dime, or to pull out a dime and you pull out a nickel, so you have to make a cheshbon, a nefesh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did I do wrong to deserve it, right?
Meaning the Jewish blood flowed in Eretz Yisrael on October 7th, Simchas Torah, and then subsequently the sacrifice, Mesiras Nefesh. So where am I? Take my pulse, right? We say on Pesach, along the path of redemption, we say, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh. What's different this night than all other nights? Right, it's the cutest. You bring the little kids, put them on the chair.
Sing the song.
They say it in Yiddish or Ladino. They say it in
right.
French and whatever. It's
Spanish there,
Right. There's something it's one of the deepest moments, one of the most recognizable moments of Pesach, right? Everybody waits for it. The kids practice it. But there's no chiddush to it, right? Like you're reading right off the script. Like here are the 4 questions. 4 questions. We have 6 million questions. We got questions from here to the end of history and beyond. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh. When Baal HaGodah says, Kan haben shoel. Here, the child, the son asks. It's an invitation for every Jew to ask of the Ribono Shel Olam. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh. Nothing really changes on Pesach. That's the whole thing, right? It's all about the same recipes and the same flavors and the same shticky thing that your uncle does and the story of your grandmother getting out of Auschwitz or the great-grandfather bringing his Maisa. And it's tethered. It's the most traditional night that we have, right? Meaning everything is about keeping it tethered to tradition. So when we say Ma nishtana, I'm asking what's different in me. How have I changed? And how am I seeing the world differently? How am I seeing my place in this whole story differently? Like, am I going to follow Moshe Rabbeinu and go out to my brothers and open my heart? Am I going to run and just stay in the king's palace and just say, that's for you guys to deal with? And that's why Pesach is a night of transmission of Yiddishkeit in such a deep way. That's why there's so many chips down on Pesach, because it's our chance to look ourselves, so to speak, in the mirror and say, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh. How am I different this Pesach than last year? And if the answer is, I learned more, I did some more mitzvos, or I got jacked up a little bit, I could do some more reps, or I made some more money, or this, we're missing the bigger picture. Meaning, how are we awakening that child within? And turning to the Ribono Shel Olam in the most sincere and simple way and saying, Ribono Shel Olam ad masai, like, how much longer do we have to suffer through this exile? Let's get the process going. We did the ground floor, we dug out,
Right.
Now let's finish
Now
the
you got the
renovation.
Get the furnishings,
We're there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So again, it's a question we have to ask yourself. Ma nishtana. What's different in me? What's different in you? And every person has their own response to that. And when we go through a traumatic experience or through war, there's just like a heightened sense of like, something really has to be different over here. My sense of participation, my sense of peoplehood, involvement, giving a darn about my sisters and my brothers.
Yeah.
Like there's something the lens that we're looking through just has to be a different lens.
Well, and what does it look like practically?
Well, you got to buy the Haggadah and find that. No, let's go.
Plug it in the description.
What's coming up to add on to Mo's question about what practically could someone do?
I think that it's different for every person, right?
Right. Do you think there's a little bit of a guilt trip over here? Because like I'm thinking for myself, meaning it could be the small. Like, could you just give some examples of what it would look like from something which may seem insignificant, but that's a huge shift for that person? Like, doesn't mean that every single night go to army bases, get barbecues, and fill in. And
you could join the army also. You could actually be on an army base as a participant also.
That for sure. Go fight. You know what I'm saying? I
Barbecue is great, but
right.
You could also
Chazak,
be
for
somebody
sure.
who I believe that it's probably different for every person, and women and men and children and people at different stages of life and different family situations and different places in the diaspora or different things in Eretz Yisrael. For sure, the Miluim soldiers need relief. For sure, their families need relief, and they need more guys putting their shoulder underneath that privilege, underneath that. That's for sure. What that looks like, how that looks like, I'll let other people bang their head against the wall with that. There are infinite ways that you can be a part of things. You can go. There's a place in Yerushalayim called the Mahal HaGvura. There's this tent of Gvura, of heroism, where family members, it's right by Cinema City, family members of fallen soldiers who are Moshe Nefesh are there every day speaking. You can have mincha there, you can meet people. You can do Bikr Cholim in the hospitals that are filled, Shiba, Tel Shomer, that are filled with Chayalim who are going through therapy, who are going through Shikum, it's called. You can give money. You can give money. You can not leave shul at the end when they say the Perek Tehillim at the end there. And if they don't say Perek Tehillim at the end, you could ask the Gabbai why. And if they don't pray for the soldiers in your yeshiva or your shul, you should find another yeshiva or shul, because they're saying, Anachnu lo im Yisrael, we're not with you.
Wow.
But if you're there, you can ask the Rosh Yeshiva, like, what's the story?
Right.
We prayed for Cossacks. We prayed for the Queen of England. We can't pray for our own brothers. Like, there are things you can do in your own Dalet Amos to really push that forward.
Wow.
You could be a game changer, a consciousness changer.
Do you think there was more of that divide before? There was a lot of like politics before this
There was always politics.
war, right? No?
Sefer Malachim, Malachim Aleph, Malachim Beis. Everyone's like, oh, it's unprecedented period. I don't know. Am mefurad, mefuzar, bein ha'amim. Right? We said at Purim.
Scattered.
I don't know when this is airing, but we're Purim Pesach season
Yeah.
over here.
Mhm.
Like, we were scattered, right? We were mefurad.
In every way.
I mean, Shaul HaMelech, David HaMelech, Ish Boshes, Mifi Boshes, meaning Tanakh. There wasn't protests on the street where they're burning stuff. That's gross. But they're killing each other, like literally.
Yeah.
So I don't know, unprecedented. I just don't know, like, I don't know. In the days of Eli Navi, there was like people were killing each other when they disagreed with one another. So I don't know that it was worse with the judicial reform.
Right.
There's a really tough nut to crack in Eretz Israel, in the state of Israel. Again, there's a construction site. We need some permits to like get the job over the,
So what do you think? What's your approach in that? Because obviously there's so many, every way you turn, you have 10 different opinions. Do you kind of like disregard and say the bigger picture is that we all need to be one and we'll figure out the differences?
Yeah.
Or do you like kind of sludge through each one trying to figure them
You
out?
tell me.
Probably
What do
the
you
first.
think? Yeah, I mean, we meaning real communication, real talking. Sometimes that requires sacrifice. To look another person in the eye and say, I'm ready to give my all for you, but I disagree with you. Like, really, I can't stand you. Have reprehensible opinions.
Wow.
I mean, there are those in the modern state of Israel that are actively undermining, at least again, my opinion, undermining the safety and the security of the Jewish people.
Mhm.
And in my heart, I say Yimach Shemam, and that's painful to think that or to feel that about another Jew. And so I spend time in Hisbodedus, try every day. I spend time in the plunge to try to clear my head and breathe through it, and deal with what Moshe Rabbeinu defends us for, saying, Ribono Shel Olam, it's been a long exile and it's been rough. We're battered. We're beaten up. There's a Yetzer Hara, Sa'or Shebe'isa, and the Shiabud Malchios. There's a couple thousand years of like living under Goyish rule.
Yeah.
There's a Paritz, there's Cossacks, there's
Inquisition.
Yeah, fill it in here. There's the Nazi jihadis, like there's and it's hard. We get beaten down. We don't have the bandwidth. So I'm saying, please God, give me the bandwidth to love the Jewish people. I daven over it. And want to leave it to God to say, Hashiva Shoftena Kavrishona, please untie this and that of the evil, laws that are coming down through a non-Jewish klipa in the functioning and running of the state. Undo the negativity in the world of the oppositional forces to holiness. And the best way, I think, to turn is to kind of like pump up the volume, is to amplify all the good, amplify the Yiddishkeit, to amplify Torah mitzvos, the Jewish people putting on tefillin and tzitzis and doing Jewish and loving each other and taking care of each other and making those barbecues and those, going over, you see a soldier in the street, go over and just say, Kol hakavod ohev otcha achi, farek otam, take them out, do it. Like whatever your script is, to just be part of that positive movement, because there's nothing more dangerous than sinas chinam.
Wow.
We're just talking about this.
Yeah. Can you tell me, do you think there's a misunderstanding of what it is? What does sinas chinam mean to you? Again, for the listeners, baseless hatred. And I want to follow up with the opposite. Ahavas, like unconditional love.
Let's focus on the positive, right? Like ahava.
Yeah. So tell me what that looks like.
It's funny. It's not really chinam when you love another Jew. It's not for chinam. We love another Yid because we're sisters and we're brothers, because we're all chiseled from the same stone. Like we're cut from the same cloth. At the same breath that runs in your lungs and yours is in mine. Like we're all, right? Chavivin Yisrael Shnikru Banim Lamakom. We're all part of this family. Family can be really challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? You wonder, like, you're at the Seder and you're like,
Get me out of
Who
here.
are these people?
yeah, no, it can be challenging.
Yeah.
A family, and then you're like, wait, what kind of family has like a Russia who says like, I'm out, has a chacham, a little tzadikal, and a sheina de lishol,
Doesn't
and
know how to ask.
right? Look at the whole like, what kind of dysfunctional family is this? The Jewish people are a big family.
Yeah.
Well, it's not lechinam. It's not for naught. It's not for free that we love each other and that we're instructed to love each other. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha is the lens through which the entirety of the Torah lives in its light. There's nothing in Yiddishkeit that is not seen through the experience of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha.
Of loving your fellow Jew.
Yeah, and all roads have to lead to that. If there's a Torah, or there's a religious practice, or there is an opinion, or something in your life that's drawing us away from a feeling of being connected to and wanting to be responsible for Jews, when we don't agree and when we feel, upset by them, then we're heading in the wrong direction. Then we're chipping away, so to speak. We're drilling a hole in the boat that we're all going to sink in. So, chinam, I don't know. Jews don't do so well with chinam. We don't like. We don't give things for free.
Right.
He usually doesn't hate for free. Usually, when something's unsettled within me, then I reflect and I see it in you. Hurt people.
Hurt people.
Hurt
Yeah.
people.
Heal
Exactly.
people. Heal people.
Nice.
Exactly. And Am Yisrael needs a real healing
Yeah.
right now. We need a real healing. We need a lot of love and a lot of healing, and a lot of focusing on Nukudot Tavot, on bright points. And wherever you are hearing this, and wherever you're going to be in, not Muncie but Pomona, it's not Muncie, and you'll be in
Miami.
If you have to be somewhere out of Eretz Yisrael, okay.
I mean, I plan on living here, but for the
Ashracha.
time being, yeah.
For the people listening to this and this message is deeply resonating with them, but they don't know where to start, what do you say to them?
It's a beautiful question. It's a beautiful question.
Thank you.
What do you say? I'm Ruatem.
What's coming up for me is what you stated previously. It's not so much I get very stuck in the details. Like I'm like, what? I misunderstood your question. It was a very honest question, meaning the first step is like understanding and internalizing what you're saying. That we're all one. And then the question becomes like, once I deeply resonate with that idea, now what do I do? Like I want to do something.
When we feel good about ourselves,
Yeah.
when we're aligned, when we're healthy, right? When we're connected, so then we can radiate that outward. So part of Havas Yisrael is taking care of ourselves, kamocha, right? It's a recurring theme in Baderech, and it's a recurring theme in daily practice. Still haven't gotten it down.
Sure.
Right? I'm still working on it, but self-care, not in the just checking a box about we're gonna go to sauna and that's good too. I'm gonna get some sun and knock back some matcha and whatever, but real kindness and acceptance of self, which we could then kind of turn toward the people that are closest to us.
Wow.
Our siblings, our parents, the people in our, your roommates, right? The people who are closest sometimes are the hardest ones to kind of get straight with.
Because we know their faults a little bit.
Yeah, and everything's under a microscope, and the familiarity of it, and it can be frustrating and annoying, but start there. I love the chayalim,
Right.
or this new
Start with
song, I
people
love the
closest
yeshiva
to you.
guys. It's great. It's all good. All those things are wonderful, but for that to iterate, to be expressed and to be revealed in a very personal way, find one person. You have a little bit of a
There's a little abrasiveness
a
going
little
on.
something. There's somebody you have. Give them a call and say B'no Shalom in your own words. Say Master of the world, God, whatever you call him, Bashefer, you, higher power. I don't know, Eibishter, you. I'm doing this as an expression of Ahavas Yisrael. I'm doing this to love, deeply, the Jewish nation. You want to buy cigarettes and Excels and give it out in the South. That's awesome. That's great. Chaver will appreciate it. And you want to make sandwiches and send it to the North and go to Kiryat Shmona with the yeshiva and clean people's houses with broken glass there. So when the Mufunim move back in, they'll have a clean place. It's beautiful. All that is great. And find that one person and reach out to them Erev Shabbos and make right by them, and say to the Ribono Shel Olam, I'm doing this to heal. I'm doing this for Havas Yisrael. I'm doing this for Haftal Recha Kamocha. Kamocha, and find something in ourselves that we're just unsettled with and work through that. You know, and that itself is called being on the path of redemption.
I think that's a beautiful segue to the idea of the entire premise of the book. Normally, the concept of tshuva is usually conjures up images of some broken man, and he's like, I'm a piece of nothingness, and I want to get towards God, towards Torah, towards Judaism. Can you explain why it's really about return to oneself? Beautiful. It's really getting back in touch, realigned with who we are.
Tshuva is restoration, as much as it's return, as it's like the factory default. You hit that button, and then like it kind of goes back to its true self. It's like something gets out of whack, maybe in the wires. Also, tshuva stands in and of itself. Now, there doesn't have to be a response to an aveira. Mm-hmm. Like I messed something up, I did something, I searched incognito, or I had a moment, I yelled at somebody in the basketball court, or dropped an F-bomb, or I was nechshal in this, or I missed minyan. So I have to respond by fixing it. I gotta like scrape that and spackle that area. There is a certain aspect of tshuva which is responsive and reactive. But a deeper expression of tshuva is restoring, is saying like, that wasn't really me. You know, I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm good and I'm lichtig and I'm a chelik elokam imal mamish. I'm literally a breath of God and I'm clean and I want to be happy and I want to be good. So I just want to I'm just going to turn away from that and re-embrace who I really am. And there's something much more inviting and positive and sustainable about that, as opposed to just I'm not that. It's like any work in life. If it's all about what am I not going to do? What am I not going to eat so that I can be healthy? You know, what am I going to cut out of my spiritual, emotional, relationship diet, right? Or my and I write a list of here are the foods I'm not going to eat. Here are the things I'm not going to say. Like you the Chidush Arim says right there that yeah, exactly. Turn away. Appreciate that. I should play like Tick and Fly. Is that if I'm there,
link the resume in the bio.
If I'm there, if I'm thinking about those things, then I'm rolling in the mud. Then I'm in the brokenness. I'm in the lack. I'm in the mistake. I don't have to be. I don't have to be. Head toward the light, toward the goodness. So
talking about Sumer Rav Asatov, the brokenness.
Oh yeah.
And then go towards the light. So too in Pesach.
Right. I mean that's what's going on Pesach, right? It's like we're uncovering the matzahs, covering the matzahs. The matzah's broken, the matzah's whole. There's bitter herbs. There's maror, which is a mitzvah to eat, and it's a mitzvah to eat it b'simcha.
Wow.
You gotta eat that maror sandwich b'simcha, right? And then there's the wine, which is freedom and geula. You know, that we're being saved and we're being taken out. And then the salt water. You know, it's like this. There's a lot of kind of back and forth, and that was very encouraging during this tkufa, during this time, in this incredible, you know, chapter in Jewish history that we're living through, where there's like these incredible moments of biblical level victory, like the Bibers and the Srali and Machshamo, and then like these great moments of like these statements, these incredible heroic soldiers, their stories and their life and their letters that they leave, and then you have like this government that just feels like, you know, insignificant, like, you know, almost like losers, like can't go all the way.
Yeah. And
stuck in a self-limiting concept of like, oh, let's wait and see. And then you have like these moments of like the gates of hell are going to open up on the jihadim. And then it's like, well, let's wait. Like there's this ebb and flow and up and down of like broken and whole. And it's like, I'm drinking the wine of redemption and it's happening. And then it's like, no, shove some more down your throat. Like, you know, it feels like this. So that's been very encouraging, is that there is Seder, is that there is order to this process. And this process, Baderech, is a process of ups and downs. That this is a process like the heartbeat that goes up and down. All right? And there is moments before the dawn that are very dark, and moments within the dawn that are very dark. Right? And sometimes, you know, we're not able to really see one another. That's why it's called Mashiachir. Right? Like we know that the dawn has arrived when I'm able to identify, and specifically tzitzis, in brachas. Tzitzis comes as a smichas aparshias to the meraglim. There's a really strong meraglish energy and voice.
Those are the spies.
The spies, yeah, that felt inadequate to rise up to the moment that God had laid out for them. And we're still suffering from that. That's what the Gemara says, that we're still suffering from that self-limiting perspective, way of seeing ourselves. Kichagavim, we're grasshoppers in their eyes, and that's the way we see ourselves.
Wow. That
we're not able to just alona alevi arashno, so just stand up and and get the ball over the goal line. So all the ebb and flow and give and take has been very exhausting.
Yeah.
There's moments here where it's happening, it's going, and then
It's like constant release and disappointment,
Yeah. But that's the process, meaning that exactly is the process of Geula. That is exactly how Geula unfolds. So that's very encouraging.
Wow.
Where do we know this from?
Well, it happens on a personal level, right? Like when you want to get out of right? Not that you are, but all of us are stuck in some habit or some mindset or some dark space or some, toxic relationship or some negative pattern in our Yiddishkeit, in our Avodas Hashem, or in our Midos development, or whatever it may be, and you want to break out of that. So, it usually doesn't just happen that it's one shot and it's a clean break. I mean, being in therapy or being in recovery is a process. It's steps. It's a 12-step process, and requires bittul and reviewing and humility and returning to it and reviewing it and working the steps. It's a process. It's called along the path of redemption. Literally, we're working the steps. So if it's true on a personal level and it's true in a relationship with a buddy, with a significant other, a husband, wife, or a partner, then it's true on a national scale, right? It's true with one's community, or it's true with one's neighborhood, or it's true with one's ideology. Sometimes our beliefs, right? It goes cyclically, like the seasons, like our breath, like the world, like God's creation. So why wouldn't that be reflected in the way that the Ribono Shel Olam is unfolding Geula for his nation? Goy mikerev goy. It's a birth process, and it's really messy. Birth could be very painful and very messy, and a lot of emerging from narrow places, which is what Mitzrayim is. Stick with it. Don't
Can I ask you, because whenever there's a talk about Geula or Mashiach, and it's kind of put off as some far distant event, it puts a lot of focus on the end goal, kind of. When am I going to get there? I thought I was done that, both in the negative and the positive. I thought I was already that person that I want to be. Right. What emerged for me, specifically in Baderech, was that the journey itself is why we're here. Yeah. It's not to get there.
You read it more than I did. I mean,
right? I know. I'm just trying to bounce off. Is
it the process? Is it the journey? Is it the path? Or is it about the bottom line? Nothing that's real, that's true, that's lasting, is about the bottom line. Stock portfolio, you would sim kesef, right? You want money. I want a lot of money. Yeah. I don't want a little. I want a lot. Right? Bottom line, I want the Giants to score more points than whatever team is probably going to score more points against them, right?
You don't care what it takes. You want the result.
Correct. But those things are distracting. Those are nice. Those are extras. Yeah. Those are part of the life. That's not our life. With one.
But isn't the bottom line Geula?
I think that we're in Geula. I think that we're experiencing Geula right now.
How so?
Well, Arya is talking about living in Eretz Yisrael. Your parents live in Eretz Yisrael?
No.
Did they talk about living in Eretz Yisrael?
Hopefully.
Vaguely.
Have they in the past? A little, maybe siblings, maybe a little bit.
I'm the oldest, yeah.
Your community, right? That's Geuladik, that you're looking forward and saying, I need Yisrael. I want to be part of that story. Right, that we're sitting here talking relatably or whatever about these ideas of Geula. It's Geuladik. That you're in yeshiva by Rabbi Fisher, who's such a wonderful person, and people are talking about growth and steiging for real. Not just growth equals blat Gemara.
Right.
But growth equals health.
Yes.
Equals self-actualization. Equals forgiveness.
Nice.
Equals gratitude. Equals working through and embracing the full self. In IFS and you're dealing with really healthy Geuladik terminology, right? That Reb Shlomo as a community of Americans who are, or people who came from Chutz La'aretz, who were in Efrat, that's not Geula. That's called Kibbutz Galios. Walk down the block over here in Ramat Beit Shemesh. This is called Kibbutz Galios. This is called the ingathering of the exiles. What are you waiting for? What do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen? There's going to be a WhatsApp that goes out, it's going to drop in everybody's WhatsApp and be hey, JFK, Newark, are closed today.
We'll be there at
All the
9. Yalla, let's
planes-
do it.
All the planes in the world are coming. No, I don't know that that's the way it works. I think it's like if you're echad hanolad bo, ve'echad mitzapa l'rosa. If we attach ourselves to the narrative of the future of Am Yisrael here in this land, and you're saying, I want to be there, and you open up that file at Nefesh per Nefesh, or you're thinking about, like, you come to Eretz Yisrael, and it's not just like, I'm going to go to the hotel, and go to the hotel and spend some money, and I'm going to do but like, to really feel like, how could I be here? How could I push the ball forward? How could I get my kids here? How could I, create a future here? How could I make a parnasa here? Whatever it may be. I work in Chutz La'aretz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, I'm busy. A lot of my kochot on nefesh, a lot of my time and effort and consciousness is toward building and working with, the Jewish people, the professionals, and the lay leaders, and the board, and the director, and the councils of Camp HASC in upstate New York. Meaning, I don't know if this is happening this second, but the consciousness and the direction of which way we're facing, not just as a checking the box, I'm going to face toward Eretz Yisrael, but where am I really aspiring and yearning toward? That's Geuladik. If Eretz Yisrael, when Eretz Yisrael is part of that, and not just to make Aliyah, but to continue to make Aliyah, to build and to grow and steig in this healthy way, we're a nation that needs a refuah. We're a nation that needs a refuah between different types of Yidden, between types of Jews, in different ways, different tribes. We're working out this kibbutz galios here, but that's what's happening. It's 2,000 years of being raped and burned, and it's not over. Like, we're trying to figure out how to get along and figure it out together. But that's Gula. That's Gula. We're in Tchias HaMesim, I believe.
Meaning what?
We are in Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim isn't, again, like you snap your fingers and everybody stands up.
The rise from the dead.
Yeah, I don't know that it's like some zombie movie, like an awakening. I don't know. The Leshem Shavov Achalama paints it as a very different picture.
That what?
It's a process of 200 years.
Wow.
That there's stages. And there's a tchiyah. The whole land and the nation comes alive again.
Wow.
I'm spending a lot of time with families with women whose husbands are killed in action. And they're getting remarried and chalitza and starting homes again and renewal and rebuilding. It's Tchias HaMesim. I think that we have to be a little bit broad about how we're seeing history. History is big. Hashem is big. Am Yisrael is big. Our role could be significant.
Yeah.
I think that it's just, I have a friend. I'm very blessed. I have a friend. Thank you, Hashem Chevra.
Nice.
Besides the revolution, I think that's Geuladik.
Really? Which
Yeah.
part of it?
The whole
Very
thing.
into that?
The whole
really?
thing. The whole thing.
Wow.
And you see what's happening in the world, how almost like this, they're putting something good out in the world, and it's good. It's creating a revolution in the world. People are talking about their Bona Shalom. People feeling good about their Yiddishkeit. People are pumped. They're listening to great music. They're happy. It's a vibe. It's cool. It's trending. That's Geuladik. Anytime you ask, the Chevra, you ask Aryeh or Yitzi, you ask Chevra, you ask them like, hey, I have this idea, I have this, inyan, this initiative. The response is in.
Wow.
In. The details are the details. I mean, obviously, there's
I
details in
love
the world.
that.
In. Are you in? That's the thing. Geula is, I'm in. I don't want to be on the outside. I don't want to be in chutz, anything. Chutz la'aretz, chutz la'machane, ma'acher. I want to be in. I want to be in. I want to, with my heart, with my soul, with my time, with my effort, with my creativity, with my money, with all of my parts, my broken matzah, my maror, my salty, my salty tear cup there with dipping potatoes in, whatever. I want to be in. I want all in.
Wow.
I want all in with the Ribono Shel Olam, all in with Klal Yisrael. That's Geuladik.
And how the details will figure themselves out. Okay, that's why
Good
we have
luck,
God
yeah.
running the show.
Good luck, yeah. Every person has to,
Wow. Part of that shift within the redemption mindset is I'm way younger than you, so
Hi.
this is just from what I've heard from people who are older and more experienced, and tell me if this resonates.
But you don't look that much younger.
I'm meant to, I don't know, but yeah.
I'm younger than I ever was.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
So much older than.
There was much more for sure in the past, like let's say my parents, right? There was very clear defined demographics. I don't call it walls. You're in this box. I'm not going to go with names, but very clear what I'm talking about. And now there's like this, it almost doesn't exist. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's no, even this platform.
Are you in?
That's it.
All right. Are you in? Atem in Yisrael. Are you in? If you're in, you're in. how you define being in whatever. Are you part of this? You know, are you attaching to the Wi-Fi of this moment? Are you connected to the energy and the flow of what's happening here, of God's story playing out in this incredible chapter in Tanakh, with the pain of the Jewish people and the suffering of the Jewish people and the joy of the Jewish people and the godless, the Romamus, just the glory of how beautiful it is when a person sets himself to a goal to learn Torah and accomplishes something in Torah and doesn't give up on themselves in something in Torah, something small, something, every person according to their own, you know, you put on tefillin, and for a moment you bind yourself with Jewish pride. You say, Ribbon Shalom, I'm in. Hineni, I'm here. I'm with you. I'm in. I'm Klal Yisrael. That's Guladik to me. And you're right. I think that there's a lot more openness. Internet certainly has what to do with that.
Nice.
And there's a price tag on that, a negative side
For
to
sure.
that also. You know, you hear a couple coins in a can clinking around. They're making a lot of noise. You know, there's a lot of that, a lot of manipulation. Okay, we have to be deeper than that. We have to look beneath the surface a little bit. Am Yisrael, by and large, is healthy and good and loves each other and cares for each other, and are in on one another.
Wow. Is that just a perspective? Meaning, did you decide to think that way, or
Well, it's true.
is it? And I'm asking, is it a belief, or is that like a perspective change?
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
Maybe it's a reality, you know?
I think it's a reality.
If that's just the truth.
Meaning,
it's
is hope
covered,
is hope a fact, or is hope an emotion?
Well, I'm saying you could choose to look at the
is
downside.
hope an emotion, or is hope a fact?
Hopes and emotions.
As an opinion, like ancient
Yeah.
Yiddish, Bolam Klal, it's it's a fact. There's a metzius, it's
Hope?
a reality. Hope.
That's emotion. You're like,
Ein shum yush ba'olam klal.
there's nothing there yet.
Nachman said,
You're hoping.
there's no such thing as giving up hope. There's no such thing as yush. That means that it's not just an opinion. It's not just your opinion, man. It's a reality. It's mitziut. That God created the world. That there's no such thing as too late,
So that'd be more belief.
and no such thing as too late. So I see that as a fact.
I could choose to not be in
As a
line with
cloud.
that fact.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
You don't have to be in. That's where I am.
Right.
Am Yisrael is, we're moving. We're going
Right.
toward Gula. You want to get stuck in the fighting? You want to go to Kaplan and get into a fist fight and yell and scream? You want to sit online on Twitter and write Yimach Shemot to every person? You want to sit there and I also get dragged down. I also sometimes run a line of Oreos or sit and eat a pint of ice cream late at night by myself and eat Bamba and
You love
drink
Bamba, by the way.
Yeah.
In every other podcast, you always mention Bamba.
No, because that's how I commit. That's anti-Semitism. When a yid, when a yid goes deep on a pint of ice cream at 2:00 in the morning, right, knocks back a couple of chayams and 2 bags of Bamba, you're not feeling very good about yourself.
Yeah.
Meaning numbing something, filling some hole there. But it's a little bit anti-Semitic, meaning like taking out some negative emotion on a yid.
Oh, wow.
Meaning there's something there which
Self.
is unhealthy, right? There's something there which is not, out of not aligned. Okay, so there's different ways of dealing with that, of getting over that. Sitting on Twitter or on Facebook and just like responding, pardon, Yimach Shemo, Erev Rav, whatever, traitors, kill them, like about other Yidden. It's like a little bit that same type of thing. Just kind of like stirring the pot of the cesspool of negativity.
What?
And
Yeah, we could do that.
and Zalom, it's not healthy.
Second.
Yeah.
Those good looks, you know what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
and it happens. You get crazy. You want to get out there and just yell and scream and yell into the abyss and the void, and but that's a gravitational pull away from really what is positive and meaningful and constructive, And sometimes it's what happens. We're nechshel.
Do you think that voice is important at all, or no? Meaning, do you think the Yid then go into riots and posting online? And obviously, I think posting online is positive, but that's my personal opinion.
No,
I don't know.
okay.
But do you think people being very vocal about it?
About what?
Fighting
About-
goyim, and fighting anti-Semitism and pushing back on, yeah, of course that's important. But how much did that really help? Spent a lot of money on a commercial at the Super Bowl with Snoop and Tom Brady about anti-Semitism. I don't know. I don't know what the data is, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure, those millions of dollars are necessarily going to carry the day of how the world sees Yidden. and like sitting there saying like F Kanye or whatever. I'm not allowed to say that, I don't know, or whatever. Okay, it feels good, like it's true, right? It's emes lamito, yimach shema, yimach shema, whatever. Like, okay, that's one way of like responding. I'm talking about Jews. I'm talking about politics. Politics is a space. Politics is a arena, and those who are in the political arena have to play by the rules of the political arena. I sat with there was a member of the cabinet was here in Ramat Shemesh. We had a sit down, and it was a small group of people, and somebody said to him, like, listen, you speak harshly, and you represent Yiddishkeit and Torah, and you're trying to like represent the Havas Yisrael and the Derech of Rav Kook, and like really your language sometimes is like very abrasive and harsh. And he's like, politics is not a kumsitz,
right?
Like politics rough. And I understand that. Meaning there's a shlichus there, and there's something there to fight that, and we've had that type. That's not where I think the Rebbeinu Shalom wants me or needs me. I don't know, but I don't think so. Right. I don't think God needs me in my back room, stuffing my face with bamba and cursing under my breath for the better part of a year either. I think Hashem wants us healthy and strong and clear, and radiating positivity. We have a vision for the world. We have a vision for the future. We have a chazon. We have prophecy. We have a land, and we've been restored to our land. And we're in the middle of a process. And what's lacking is a little faith and confidence to really step into that. And the Rebbeinu Shalom is waiting for us to step into that. I don't know that that's happening with most of our leadership, but that's not surprising. 10 out of 12.
That what?
Stepping into the big picture of God's plan for the land of Israel.
What's the picture right now? Each to their own. You're
saying?
Yeah,
whatever. Let me get my money from my yeshiva,
right.
or let me ram my vision for the land down your throat. Or you're wrong. I'm wrong. I don't know. Whatever. It's a lot of smallness, and I'm not. But it's always meaning Eretz Yisrael has always been there's been a discussion between the majority of thought leaders and a minority who were right, like the Meraglim. They were 10 out of 12, and they were Gedolei Yisrael.
Yeah,
they were bigger than the Gedolim in the Holocaust, and they were wrong about Eretz Yisrael. They didn't have a big vision for themselves, or for the land, or for the people, and they failed. And we are still crying over that Bechi Shel Chinam, and we're still stuck in that self-limiting. And I see a young generation of our children and their friends, and an awakening of Nishmas Yisrael, which is so encouraging and so connected to an arc of history that's heading toward Geula, that choosing to live in that narrative of Yehoshua, and of Kalev, of the voice that says, Alo na'aleh v'yarashnu, like let's stand up and do this, ki yachal nuchal, because we can, because Rebbeinu Shalom believes in us. And the more that you're sitting in Rabbi Fisher's yeshiva and building up your sense of self and your self-confidence and working through whatever it is that you're working through, and the more copies of Baderech that you buy, the closer the tikkun comes. The closer the tikkun comes along this path of redemption. We just have to, I don't know that you have to believe in it. It's happening. You got to just say, in.
It's happening.
I'm in. I'm here for it.
Wow. So cool. I really resonate with the mindset. It's not limiting yourself. You're just going. There's no question. There's no doubt. It's full sending it.
It's full send. That's in. That's the.
And I really like what you said about the tefillin. Every positive action that I do is another expression of I'm in. That declaration is the overarching idea, and then everything else like feeds back into that.
Right. Fulfill mitzvot with a notion, with a klali notion, with a notion of b'shem kol Yisrael, in the name of all of Israel, and bind ourselves to the bigger klal, and that moves the needle forward.
I saw a clip that 1840 posted. It was pretty charif, and you were saying that very similar to all these ideas that we're discussing. And he said, shame on us if we don't take advantage and if we're not ready to burn everything to the ground. Meaning, we're moving. Are you in or not? But there's this still feeling of like Masorah, tradition, and what do you mean? We've been doing it for thousands of years like this. I don't want to shake the pot too much. Where does that come into play?
It's wonderful. Masorah is what kept us going.
Mm-hmm.
But the Masorah of Klal Yisrael in Chutz La'aretz, and in the initial stages of this part of history, were very reactive. Right? They were in response to living in a place that wasn't ours. A third of the Torah is not applicable outside of Eretz Israel.
Mm-hmm. A third? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the Chavetz Chaim. So
Wow.
I mean, that's also just mitzvahs.
Right.
I mean, Rav Chanan Wasserman, who was not a Zionist, says that it's even more. He explained his Rebbe, the Chavetz Chaim, that it's even more
Wow.
than a third. And now we're here, and there's not a Beis HaMikdash, but we've grown. We're in our land, and there's a large part of the community which is holding on to a Masorah. Well, there's those holding on to a Masorah of living in, countries that aren't ours, looking to hold on to these old, Turkish laws and British laws and European consciousness. You see that in our parliamentary system, and then you see on the other extreme, Rosh Yeshiva and Gedolei Torah. I won't say Gedolei Israel, but Gedolei Torah, who are still very much, holding on to, well, that's the way it was in the days of the Brisker Rav, and that's the way it was in the days of the Chazon Ish. And that's wonderful, but there's a reality now. There's something that's shifted in the world. You're participating in the government, and you're not just members of Knesset, you're in a war cabinet, and you're playing an active role. You're not just
on the sidelines.
Right, you're not just paying rent to the pirates. You're a participant, and you're engaged. So there's an entire community that is waiting for guidance and waiting to understand how to play a role. And you see that happening. Right? You see that starting to shift and starting to change. And at the same time, an expansion of what it means to participate, what it means to be a part of Israeli society. It's not a binary. It's not one or the other. And I believe that process, I know that process takes time. And it's taking time, but it's happening. And we're a part of it. And we're a part of it. It's the breakdown of the walls and the breakdown of the definitions. But we have to be ready to break down those walls, to burn down those walls, to let go of all that. What it means to be Er L'Chayid, what it means to be an Eved Hashem, what it means to be a Zionist, what it means to be someone who participates. To just get rid of all those concepts, the notions, to create something new together that's healthy and not just reactive.
So what is that? What's that ultimate truth that you're expressing?
We need the Jewish people to say in. We're in to build Yiddishkeit.
And that's it. Meaning that before, like my definition, I could give you like
how it works.
Is he
I don't
Shomer
know.
Shabbos? Is he right? Like
I don't know
that.
if Shomer Shabbos is the. I don't know if that's the. I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm playing devil's advocate. Meaning,
well, no, you don't have to be the devil. You could just be like everybody has their thing. Like what does it mean to be an Er L'Chayid? Shomer Shabbos, Taras Mishpacha, davening with minyan, or tefillin every day, or
nice
willingness to give your life for another Jew. What if you do all those things and then when the going gets tough, you run away to Miami?
Right. Wow.
You're how in are you? Right? How in are you? Well, I put on tefillin, I put on tzitzis, I learned Torah, I'm doing. Okay, but how in are you on Knesset Yisrael?
What
so
exactly?
This guy who's not necessarily wearing a kippah or wearing tzitzis, but he's in that way. So what are the metrics? How do we understand the metrics of, meaning what's most important? What are the Seder Adifiyot? What are the priorities in what determines a Jew being Moser Nefesh and a Jew expressing V'ahavta Recha Kamocha Zeh Klal Gadol B'Torah?
Yeah.
It requires like a little bit of like
an openness, a little bit.
Yeah, and honesty.
Yeah, right. Nice.
And honesty, like a little bit of honesty, and a little bit of like swallowing something which is lo naim sometimes. Right? And I'm not here to cast aspersions or be a categor, a prosecutor against any community in Kalaiso, but everyone has to like get off their high horse a little bit, know that we don't have a monopoly on truth, and think this through in a little bit of a deeper way. And a little bit more humility to work the steps. Too heavy?
No, I'm trying
just soaking it up.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of.
It's heavy. The world is heavy.
For sure.
It's heavy. These are heavy days. The Jewish people are in a heavy, heavy time.
What do you think's holding us back?
Meraglim. The voice of the Meraglim inside of us. The voice of Paro.
Which looks like what?
That's running after us when we get to the banks of Yam Suf, saying, you're not going to make it across that body of water. And then the Jews start saying, oh boy, maybe we should go back. Maybe we should just
jump in,
drown
dive
ourselves.
in. They're all right. Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're like, what do we do over here? Right? Paro's like, with his chariots is coming. There's a little Paro that's always chasing us down. Right? Just like there's a little Haman that's always in our voice, a voice in our head. Just like there's a bit of all of these aspects of
throw in the Greeks, throw in the Yitzhahara. Like,
of course.
So what's the hope? Well, meaning, what do we have to fight back?
The hope is the truth of God's plan. That the Ribono Shel Olam said in the end of the day, akabtem, that I'm going to gather you in together, that we're going to rebuild our nation together, and we're going to do this together in Eretz Yisrael. Meaning there's prophecy. The hope, which is the fact, which is the truth, which is the Metzias,
Nice.
which is what I believe is happening, which is I see happening, and I think that you have to be willfully blind to not experience it and not see it, is that the Jewish people are coming back. We're coming back to ourselves. We had real moments of glory, of hisparus, of strength. And that voice, that self-limiting voice is there, but we have to demand that. We say, Alona Alevi Arashno, so we have to demand at the voice of Kalev ben Yifuna and Yoshua ben Nun, who had a ruach acheret, had a different spirit, be what carries the day, and not let go of that, and not get sucked into, smallness and pettiness, but to keep our eye on the big picture. We're there.
I love
I
it.
agree.
Relatable?
Very much so.
Most.
Yes.
L'chaim.
Chaim, chaim.
L'chaim to the Jewish people.
Amen. Wow. Right before we wrap up, we have 3 rapid fire questions. Yeah? Okay. Ready?
Doesn't matter, right?
Everyone's do it. Yeah,
Ready
exactly.
or not.
It's like when they strap you into the roller coaster and you're like, wait, oh shoot. I'm like, yeah, you're done.
I was thinking of more of the drop, like
Yeah.
the water slides. They just
I don't do those right. I
That's
have enough
scary.
excitement.
We're about to do it
I have
right
enough
now,
it's,
excitement,
it's
right?
pretty scary.
I know, but I'm on my couch in my house. I don't feel.
Okay,
I don't
nice.
feel so
Maybe
pressured.
doesn't need the adrenaline rush.
Oda's in
Take an ice
in the
bath.
kitchen.
Let's go.
Oda's in the kitchen over there getting ready for Shabbos. Like I don't feel pressure. I know I'm gonna have a safety net here.
Could you repeat the line that you said about 2 ways to become a Rebbe?
You want me to?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. You asked. Met Oda before. There are 2 ways to become a Rebbe. You can be a Rebbe, or you can marry a Rebbetzin. Right?
Yeah.
So I married a Rebbetzin.
There we go.
I'm very
I love
fortunate,
that.
yeah.
I love that. Question number 1. What's one character in a movie or novel that you relate to the most?
Like right now.
Character in some sort of movie or novel that you watch that or read that, you're like, that's me. I see myself as that person.
Wow. Meaning there's aspirationally like what I would like to be.
Mm.
Okay.
I want to say like this is crazy. Like I want to say Ari ben Canaan from Exodus, but he was with a shiksa.
Maybe that's the
But
part
I
you
read
like.
it in 7th grade. I read it in 7th grade, and I kind of like
Why meaning leading? You're talking about that part of
yeah, he heard the knock. He went. He was all in.
Mm.
He was all in.
He was in.
He was in. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the title of this, by the way. Are you in? Like
Oh,
that.
nice.
You're with like a finger, like Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
All in.
Oh.
Yeah. All in.
Nice. I like that.
All in.
Mo, what were you about to say?
Aspirationally,
No.
I would like to. I would like to abide, but I think that like these days, I'm focusing very, very much on that type of part of the Jewish history. It's amazing, like what comes up in your youth, from your youth. Like you do inner work.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of like go back a little bit, and you kind of like reveal some of
Is
the.
something you can share with us?
Well, this is 7th grade. I remember sitting in my house in Muncie, not Pomona.
You grew up in Muncie?
Yeah, not Pomona. That's
Where?
That's why I got sensitive when you said you.
No,
grew up in
I
Muncie,
also
but you're
grew up
from
in Muncie,
Pomona.
just not in Pomona. I was in
You
Maine.
said
I
you're
was
from
in.
Muncie, and
I was
said where,
off.
and you said Pomona.
Rabbi, I was off of West Maple. That's Muncie as it
I
gets.
grew up on Grove Street, dude.
Boy.
I grew up across the street from Grove Street.
Okay.
Orchard
Neighbors,
Street.
L'chaim.
What's that?
Orchard Street.
Yeah, Vadai.
Avada. That's my grandparents. I lived there for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
Case of
That's
Avada.
something. That's something.
Yeah. Floor. You ever heard the name?
What's that?
Floor.
I don't know.
Don't even try.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah, we're not gonna try.
I grew up down
Okay.
the block from the fire station. there
Nice.
was
Yeah.
Hatzalah.
Okay. So I'm next
Before
door to
there-
the
I
fire
know,
station.
Before there was Hatzalah over there. When it was
Right.
when the only thing Jewish was or Shraga Feivel.
Right.
Had yeshiva there, and the Shatnez man.
Where did Rabbi daven by Stalin?
Where did I daven?
Yeah.
No, we didn't daven at Stalin. We walked to Ashar.
Ashar.
Yeah, it was like a
New
mile.
City.
No, that's now in the new Reuben Gittleman building.
Oh, okay.
But the old Ashar, which is next to Chafetz Chaim, on
Yeah, I'm not
Highview.
holding these times. Highview. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
so bad.
no, this is old. This is
I feel
For
old.
all
bad
the
for our-
non-Muncie audience over here.
Okay.
Muncie
Yeah.
kids always went hard though, and always tried harder.
Of course.
Muncie kids always went
Muncie are the
harder,
best.
always
Yeah.
overcompensated.
Yeah.
And I remember in
Nice.
Pomona when there was not one Shomer Shabbos in Pomona.
No, 12
I
years
remember
ago.
that.
Forget
My
about it.
grandma
No,
had a liquor
15
store
years
there,
ago.
Pomona Wines and Liquor.
Really?
Yeah,
That was
now
yours?
Now it's Evergreen.
Now it's
next door to
no.
Evergreen.
Wow.
Is that in Evergreen?
It's the next door. There.
Next
There's
door
that,
complex, yeah.
whatever it's called.
I feel bad for Ari right now. Next
Yeah.
conversation.
That was my grandma's liquor
Moving
store.
right along. So about Miami. Number 2, if you could instantly master any skill or talent that you don't currently possess, what would it be and why?
Whoa. Any skill or talent? Could a mida
Totally.
Yeah, I
That
would
character trait.
want to be. I would want to be fearless.
Wow.
I don't want to lefached. Lo etzeh lefached. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be afraid of the big moments that Hashem is laying out for us. I don't want to be afraid of our enemies. I don't want to be afraid of failure. I don't want to be afraid of messing up my marriage. I don't want to be afraid. That's it. If I could say there's a way, if a pill I could take, the courage to not be afraid. I'm working on it. Davening over it. I talk to Hashem about it every day.
Wow.
Lo lefached.
I like that.
Lo lefached.
Wow.
That's part of being in. You're just in.
Lo lefached.
There's no fear.
Lo lefached.
And Mo, to
Oh, I
wrap
get
this
the
up,
honors threat. Last one.
Trying to get you more involved in it.
Okay. I'm reading 3.
Go for it.
If you were to write a letter to your younger self, what advice or encouragement would you give your younger Tzvi?
What I give
Younger
myself.
Rabbi Judah.
Oh, this was. I was like,
Don't worry about it.
where did Tzvi come in?
Yeah, from now on, I'll
Okay.
stick to read the questions.
Let me read the question again. Cut it out. If you were to write a letter to your younger self, what advice or encouragement would you give the younger Judah?
I'd say to a Muncie kid
Okay, let's do it.
is know that there's a sof tov. Don't be afraid. And you don't have to try so hard.
It feels
Wow.
like an attack.
Wow,
I'm
totally
talking
not.
about myself.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
talking
Muncie.
to you. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, I
I
love
was
it.
always felt like I had to prove something and try
Mm.
harder, and whether it was in Frumkeit or it was in high school with girls or it was weight struggling or it was in something. There's always a thing, like every kid, but to know Yetov, Ora is going to come along, and there's going to be there'll be a soft tov to all of this. That's
Wow.
Hashem. Yeah.
Shkaya.
Yeah, I think I'd write that letter.
Wow.
Yeah, I would also say to write a letter to myself, say, like invest in, like Tesla, invest in Apple.
Some
Coca-Cola,
AI. You don't know what
Google.
that is.
Invest in
but
Apple.
no.
I don't know,
ChatGPT.
it's too weird. AI is too complicated for me. I'm not, that's also Mashiach-dik, but I'm
Yeah?
that'll be for our kids. But I would say invest in those
Nice.
places. Can
Wow.
for sure.
Beautiful. Okay, dude, it's been an
Time,
honor
guys.
and pleasure.
Rabbi, we discussed many topics, mostly being all in Yiddishkeit and saving the Jewish nation, being together in full oneness. If there's one message that you want the listeners to take out of this episode, what would that be?
I'll quote, I'll be Mevi Geula La'olam, and quote the late Jerry Springer. Remember to have your pets spayed and neutered. Take care of yourselves and each other.
L'chaim. Take care, Bashir.
L'chaim.
Shkayach, Rabbi.